Good morning, welcome to Headline Focus here live on Core Politics with me, Rob Double. It is Monday the 20th of August 2018. Let's have a look at what's going on in recess from this week and also from last week as well. And first up, a no-deal offer from the UK government to EU citizens. So in the event of a no-deal, this is what the UK government would continue to offer EU citizens. It's pretty much a unilateral offer to all the 3 million that they can stay in the event of a no-deal in the UK, and also, crucially, on the same terms proposed in the withdrawal agreement signed with Brussels last year. Now, that would mean they're entitled to stay and continue to enjoy access to things like healthcare, benefits and pensions and things like that, but also would be able to bring spouses and close family members from abroad to live with the UK in the UK as well. So idea of this being, regardless of what the EU say and regardless of the EU's position, this is what the UK is going to unilaterally offer any EU citizens. And taking, as the reports come through today, this is actually in the Telegraph, the big scoop, says taking the moral high ground and important just to make the offer irrespective of the EU's position and indeed the outcome of the negotiations. Now, this is this is actually a leak of one of the government's papers which are preparing for a no-deal Brexit. Now, there are 83 what's called technical papers. They're due to be coming out on Thursday. The first one obviously leaked today. Perhaps we'll see some more leaking before Thursday, but there will be a ministerial statement by Dominic Raab, the Brexit Secretary, on Thursday, where he will outline all of these reports and what they say and the implications and such like. Obviously, for the UK government, this is very much taking the PR stunt that the UK is prepared and preparing for the event of a no-deal Brexit, and therefore is willing to do a no-deal Brexit regardless of the EU position if the negotiations don't go as far, or a deal which is agreed is not good enough for the UK terms. No deal is better than a bad deal, of course, the government's position. However, there is a slight caveat to this. Much of the UK's no-deal planning will rely heavily on the availability of existing labour in the event that the talks break down. So the idea here is also that the UK does need the workers from the EU, they need the 3 million citizens who are living in the UK currently. In order to bolster a workforce, there are a significant number of sectors where EU citizens make up a significant number of that workforce, and therefore it isn't in the UK's interest either to be removing those citizens or making it difficult for those citizens to remain here as well. Next up, there's a very, very explosive story coming through in quite a few of the front pages today. A lot of front page headlines, which is that ministers in the government had to seize control of a prison, Her Majesty's Prison, Birmingham, after Chief Inspector of Prisons Peter Clark arrived unannounced last month and concluded it had deteriorated basically into a dangerous prison, the UK's most violent prison, and was at risk of being out of control. So this happened on the eve of a damning report which is coming out into the Birmingham prison. Justice Secretary David Gauke will install a new governor at Birmingham and move hundreds of prisoners out and send 30 emergency staff to try and regain control. This is according to reports in many of the papers today, where and no doubt this will also come through as well as the Westminster wakes up a little bit later on. The plan is for the Majesty's Prisons and Probation Service to run the prison for at least 6 months, and then it will be decided whether control can be returned to G4S to run the prison from then on. Now, why is this so particularly important? Why this story will unlikely go away is not necessarily to do with Her Majesty's Prison Birmingham in exclusivity, but more the wider theme of private companies running public sector services. Now, in this case, it's the prison service, but it could also be Carillion, it could be East Coast train services, which again collapsed a few months ago. This whole idea of public sector ownership, or rather private sector getting involved in public sector's services, whether that be the NHS, transport, prisons, is a constant theme which under Jeremy Corbyn, of course, has become really at the forefront of the political dialogue happening between the Conservatives and the Labour government, so obviously the opposition and the government. Keen to stress, though, as a lot of the reports indicate, this isn't consistent with G4S as a whole. Whitehorse sources say that there are better performing G4S prisons, in the prison system, and that's a sign that G4S, or rather private service provision, isn't ineffective per se. But nonetheless, expect this to be a narrative which is captured by at least some Labour Party figures today as a reason for why some things should just be stayed in public ownership. Finally, one more story. Talking of Labour, a report and a new poll coming out, which has just come out, suggests that Labour could be severely dented in terms of their support, particularly to the Lib Dems, if they continue to support Brexit and allow Brexit to happen. Now, this is mainly Andrew Adonis, who's a pro-EU Labour peer and former cabinet minister. He said that basically the party would be finished if it contests the next election or another election, promising to back Brexit. He goes further to say party should not be seen as an accomplice to Brexit should a snap election take place before March 2019. Now, this is off the back of a YouGov poll of more than 4,900 people. Says that the Conservatives would be ahead by Labour 4 points should Labour adopt an anti-Brexit position. This is on the assumption that there would be a snap election before March 2019. Conservatives are ahead by 9 points if Labour were to pledge to follow through with leaving the EU. But crucially, the Lib Dems would gain 10 points from Labour backing Brexit. And this is, of course, the Lib Dem strategy was to be the party of anti-Brexit and therefore picking up that 48% of the vote. However, what does this poll also say? Conservatives are still in front regardless of any of the situations, and this is all hypothetical on an election taking place before March 2019, which seems to be relatively unlikely given that it's currently in the report suggests the plan is for the Prime Minister, Theresa May, to continue to serve as Prime Minister until Brexit has been delivered in terms of March 2019, then possibly hand over to a new leader of the Conservative Party, new Prime Minister, who might possibly then think about also then calling a snap election. But still, interesting headline, just shows the extent of the lobbying happening within the Labour Party, as indeed all the other parties, in terms of Brexit, as the crunch point comes as we head towards October this year. That's pretty much it for today. You're up to date. We'll be back again on Wednesday morning just to give you an update what's going on in recess as the political agenda is in a little bit of slumber at the moment, but no doubt more headlines coming through on what we discussed today. If you want to get in touch, let's have a conversation in the comments box below or by following our Twitter accounts, which are just here. But from me and all the team here at Core London, have a fantastic start to your week. See you again on Wednesday, around about 9 o'clock.